The 39th annual SummerSlam took place tonight in Minneapolis, Minnesota at US Bank Stadium. It marked the second time that SummerSlam has been held as a two-night event, with tonight serving as night one. This was also the second SummerSlam that took place in Minnesota, with the first being held in 1999. Kicking things off tonight was the Countdown to SummerSlam Saturday show, which I watched on WWE's YouTube channel. On the panel was Joe Tessitore, Corey Graves, Big E, and Peter Rosenberg. They were outside US Bank Stadium, which looks like a giant Viking ship. As always, both Jackie Redmond and Kathy Kelly were the highlights of the Countdown show. Nice contrast between the two of them, as Kathy was wearing a white dress and Jackie was wearing a black dress. Both, as you'd expect, looking great. They were the only two reasons to watch the pre-show. Byron Saxton was also there, but who cares about him? They show a highlight video of Brock Lesnar and how he competed in wrestling at the University of Minnesota. It was narrated by Paul Heyman. They showed a pre-recorded interview with Kathy Kelly interviewing Cody Rhodes, and then the panel interviewed CM Punk. Kathy Kelly actually hosted a look-alike contest outside the stadium, and oh my god, that short white dress she was wearing with those legs. Wow. Then the beautiful Jackie Redmond interviewed the beautiful Tiffany Stratton, as she was in the middle of taking pictures with fans. I'm not sure where this was. I think it was at the Superstore, and it was just really awkward for her to do an interview like this because she'd have to keep pausing and taking pictures. And Tiffany was, of course, born close to Minneapolis, so this is a bit of a homecoming for her. The set, by the way, was a large LED screen, very wide, and it kind of, in some ways, looked like it was shaped in the image of the stadium. The logo colors were purple and gold. Those are the colors of the Minnesota Vikings. You had Vic Joseph and Booker T plugging WWE Radio. No Dave LaGreca here. They had a feature on Mr. Perfect, which I wanted to mention. He was from Minnesota, and they show highlights of his classic match against Bret Hart at SummerSlam in 1991. He had Jackie Redmond interviewing Paige and the Bella Twins backstage. This was brief. Then you had Kathy Kelly interviewing the Bloodline backstage before their six-man tag. They show Jackie Redmond in the stands later on the Countdown show. I didn't watch. I can't recap everything, just some highlights. Anyway, Jackie Redmond was in the stands as fans were arriving. Wanted to mention that's reportedly over 37,000 for tonight, which is a big disappointment. I think night one for last year's SummerSlam was around 50,000. You had Michael Cole and Wade Barrett on commentary. And I had to mention, the stadium really is a true state-of-the-art facility. You had Kathy Kelly interviewing Triple H backstage. And then they had both, after that, we saw Kathy Kelly walk out and show us the set. And then they show Jackie Redmond, who was there, showing us the set by the ring and the Hell in the Cell, which hung over the ring. And I wish Jackie and Kathy would interact more together. They're always on separate shows, but I'm a big fan of both of them, if you can't tell. So I think the set, I really think the reason why it's so wide is because they want to hide the empty seats, because this has 70,000 seats, the stadium. It's not a small stadium, but, just they failed with the ticket sales this year, and it's really disappointing. So then Joe, Corey, and Big E moved inside. You had the WWE blip flying around. They show us some highlights of classic Hell in a Cell matches from the past. Undertaker gave his prediction for Oba against Brock, and then that's really when I stopped watching at the time. Some other things that happened were actually Mark Henry. He was the one who broke the news. He was on the panel as a guest that Liv Morgan will defend her Women's World Championship against Io Sky in the opening match. And soon after that, that was it for me watching the Countdown show. 3 hours, a bit too long for a Countdown show. But if you have Kathy Kelly and Jackie Redmond on, I'm going to have to watch. Anyways, that was it for the Countdown show. And then I switched to Netflix. That's how I was going to watch the main show of SummerSlam Night 1. Then the main show began with some superstar arrivals. We saw Femi, Gunther, Nick Aldis, the Bella Twins and Paige, Fatal Influence, Cody Rhodes, and CM Punk all arriving into the stadium. Then we got the opening video package. Io Sky came out first to a nice pop to start the show. She's a great babyface, really popular. Then Liv Morgan came out, also got a nice pop, and this was her first title defense since she won the Women's World Championship at WrestleMania. And Raquel Rodriguez and Roxanne Perez were not with her when she came out. So we got the opening match, Women's World Championship. Liv Morgan defends her title against Io Sky. Early in the match, the heel Liv got the heat. And by the way, can I just say, Liv looked great in her gear, as you'd expect. And I think there was actually fan voting on the gear, and they made the right decision because she looked great. Anyway, Io makes her comeback, and she hit a nice sunset powerbomb to Liv on the outside. And then Roxanne Perez, and can I also say she was looking great in her gear, distracted the referee, and Raquel Rodriguez attacked Io. So we knew they'd at least make an appearance. Maybe they wouldn't come out with Liv, but they did make a run-in, just like they did at WrestleMania. So after that, Io, however, rallied. She took out both Raquel and Roxanne with a moonsault to the outside, and then she hit a Spanish fly to Liv in the ring, but Liv kicked out. Then she hit Oblivion, Liv's own move, to her, but then Liv kicked out again. Io on the apron hit a German suplex, which looked pretty nasty. It looked like a bad landing for Liv. And then she goes for the over the moonsault onto Liv in the ring to win, but Liv got her knees up. Liv then hit Oblivion, but Io, it was weird because it looked like Liv hit it, but Io landed on her hands and she flipped over, and it was cool, but then she ended up on the other side of the ring, and that's when Liv hit the Oblivion, and she hit it properly this time. And then Liv pins Io 1-2-3 to retain her title, and what I thought was a very good match. Perhaps Liv's best singles match I can think of. I can't think of a better singles match. I think the Elimination Chamber last year was probably the best match she's been a part of, but I think in terms of a singles match, this might be the best one, because I don't think any of her matches with Rhea were as good as this. And Io was just great as always, but for Liv, this is what I feel like. I feel this is the kind of match that she needs, so it can shut up a lot of her critics and also make people realize that she has improved a lot in the ring. From where she was a couple years ago in her second title reign, and certainly where she was like 4 years ago during her first title reign, she is a much better in-ring performer, and she really delivered here. And now at SummerSlam, Liv Morgan has wins over both Rhea Ripley and Io Sky. In this year alone, Liv has won the Women's Royal Rumble. She then won the Women's World Championship at WrestleMania, and then she retained that same title at SummerSlam. So it's a trifecta for her. One Rumble, WrestleMania, SummerSlam, all three of them she has been very successful at this year, having the year of her career without question. So congrats to Liv. And then we went to a break. And when I mean break, a commercial break. So fuck TKO. You're going to be hearing that a lot during this review. So they show Mark Henry, X-Pac, Dan Spivey, and Jimmy Hart all in the crowd. All legends shown so far. No celebrities, which I liked. Listen, if they're just going to show legends in the crowd, I'm all for that. I just don't want to see these fucking D-list celebrities they have. Next, they had some promotional deal, I think, with I'm not sure, I'm not familiar with this game, but it's called Gears of War E-Day, and they had some of their props displayed on the stage, and it looked kind of like this was going to be a WrestleMania style entrance, and it was. The Usos came out, and I guess they were part of it, I don't know, and then they waited by the ramp for Jacob Fatu to come out, and he was out with a werewolf mask, it looked like, and they make their entrances as a trio, as the Bloodline. And then I also wanted to mention the entrance ramp was all black. It almost looked like it was tarp. They must have had some leftover tarp from covering up so many seats in the stadium tonight. But I wanted to point that out. And I did like the look of the entrance ramp, by the way. I liked it. And also on the screen, it resembles like a Viking mask on the center screen. Anyway, Royce Keys was out next, followed by Solo Sikoa, and then LA Knight came out to a nice pop. We got our 6-man tag match, LA Knight, Royce Keys, and Solo Sikoa taking on the Bloodline, Jacob Fatu, Jey Uso, and Jimmy Uso. So, Solo Sikoa, I'm shocked saying this, but I can't believe I'm saying this. He was the star of the match tonight. He was really entertaining. And he starts doing the yeet, and I hate the fucking yeet. But Solo doing it, there's just something, I just had this flash of, almost like a flashback of Rikishi doing the Too Cool, doing the dance with Scotty Tahati and Grandmaster Sexy. I think Solo is the most like his dad of the three. Much more than his brothers, because I think with Solo, he can become like Rikishi became when Rikishi, for early in his career, he was like the serious guy. No one cared about him. He almost felt like, he was just another guy. But then he had this comedy act with Too Cool, and he became a star, and he was super over until they had him turn heel in that horrible storyline. But with Solo, it just reminded me of that here. I'm thinking, wait, this guy, if he does this, he should just be a comedy guy. He was horribly miscast as the Mafia boss, and the MFTs was a terrible faction, but as a comedy act, it might work with them. Anyways, going into this match, Keys tagged in for a while after Solo tagged out. Then LA Knight got the hot tag. Royce Keys hit a power slam to Jacob Fatu over a barricade, and that basically took both of them for the match, and kind of just became a tag match after that with LA Knight and Solo against the Usos. So eventually Solo would take out Jimmy with a Samoan spike, and then LA Knight would hit the BFT on Jey Uso to win the match. I was entertained by this. I thought this was fun. It was an entertaining 6-man tag match. It was better than the 6-man tag at WrestleMania when LA Knight actually teamed with the Usos. This was much better than that. For what it was a good solid match, good solid second match coming off a hot match. Kept the fans entertained. They were into it. There was comedy, but you know what? I had fun watching it. The one guy who I don't think benefits much from it is Jacob Fatu. I think all 5 of the other guys are fine for this, but you just think with Jacob coming off the feud with Roman, he'd have a more serious position on the main card. But I thought, everyone else, people like Knight, Solo Sikoa shine, and I thought this was an entertaining 6-man tag match. Nothing special, but just as the show, for the flow of the show, it was a fun match to watch coming off the hot opener, and I liked it. And also you had Solo Sikoa and LA Knight embracing afterwards. So then they show us some historic SummerSlam snapshots, and I thought this was actually a good feature to show tonight. I like looking back at that past with some memorable moments, but then we also had the commercials after that, which fucking sucked. Then we saw Gunther in the back, and then we had a long commercial break. I'm watching on Netflix, so it's like a 3.5-minute break. Once again, I have to say, fuck TKO. So Gunther was out next. Then Nick Aldis came out to a nice pop, and we got their matchup. Gunther against Nick Aldis. Aldis was wrestling like it's the match of his life. I think he came out to Oasis. That's what Triple H was talking about in the post show, by the way. Anyway, you had Gunther mocking Mickie James, who was sitting at ringside. And I like also how there was sunlight in the stadium. It came through the roof, which is like a translucent roof. And it looks good, actually, how it shines into the ring. Anyways, I just like the visual of that. So Nick got a lot of "you still got it" chants, as you'd expect. Fans badly wanted Gunther to tap out when he was trapped in the Texas Cloverleaf by Aldis. Eventually, Gunther would submit Nick Aldis with the sleeper hold. There was a lot of mat wrestling early on, and the fans were into it, so you have to give him that. I thought this was an entertaining matchup. I thought it was good for Nick. It was definitely the highlight of his career in the WWE. And I did think he got too much offense in. I would have liked for Gunther to have more offense on Nick, chopping him up, getting some sympathy. Maybe you can show his family crying. And I think, he can make that babyface comeback later. I think that would have been a better layout for the match. I just don't agree with Nick getting as much offense onto Gunther. And I know he has a good physique, but I just feel like he's not an active performer. and I don't think it's good for him to have that much offense to Gunther, but I still like the match. I still thought this was a good matchup, and obviously the right guy won the match. Afterwards, Gunther leaves the ring, and then Nick gets to his feet. He gets a standing ovation from the crowd after the match. Then he was joined in the ring by his wife, Mickie James, and their son. I thought this was a nice moment, and it was a good, in some ways, a good send-off for Nick Aldis. I'm not too keen on seeing him back in the ring frequently, but I do think you'll probably have another match. I think we'll see another Nick Aldis match in the future. But I thought for just this by itself, I thought it was fine for what it was, and I thought it delivered. I was not too high on this match being made. I just think, Gunther, after retiring John Cena and retiring AJ Styles, I just thought he would have a bigger match at SummerSlam. But overall, it was a well-built match. You have to give it that. It was one of the few matches on the card on the whole weekend, actually, that had good build-up. I just, I thought Gunther would have had a bigger match. However, I did enjoy it overall. And I liked the moment at the end for Nick Aldis. So we got another commercial break. Once again, fuck TKO. They show some celebrities in the crowd, including Busted Open Radio's, WWE Radio's Dave LaGreca, Bully Ray, and Tommy Dreamer, all sitting front row. Brie Bella, Paige, and Nikki Bella were all out next. All of them had their own entrances. And then, I had to point this out. I think Nikki Bella and Liv Morgan were having a contest on who has the better ass tonight, because both their gears really showed off their behinds. Both looking great, I have to say. And you got to give Nikki credit. Like, she's probably almost well over 10. She's more than 10 years older than Liv is. And then after that, Fatal Influence was out next. Jacy, Jayne, Lainey, Reid, and Fallon Henley all wearing matching gear. And Fallon Henley is a beautiful woman. We just say that. Next, we get the we get the match, 6-woman tag match. Bella Twins and Paige against Fatal Influence. So Brie early in the match hits her awful yes kicks. Yes, it gets a cheap yes pop from the crowd. Okay, we get the yes chance, but it looks so fucking bad. They've always looked horrible. They look worse than Miz's yes kicks, and that's saying something. So Fatal Influence gets the heat early on. They particularly get the heat on Brie. Then Nikki gets the hot tag. And my favorite part of the whole match, one of my favorite parts of the whole night, maybe one of my favorite parts of the whole year, to be honest, is when Fallon Henley mocks Nikki Bella's pose when she spins around and she shakes her ass. Fallon did that, and oh my god, she looked insanely hot. Fallon Henley, she's one of the most underrated women in the entire roster in terms of looks. Fallon Henley is. Anyway, I'm a fan of Fallon. I think she has much more potential than Jacy Jayne, to be honest. I've always thought that in NXT. I never knew why Jacy got the huge push, but yeah, I like that part with Fallon. And then Brie and Paige, I just thought were awful in the match. They couldn't bump, and they looked so sloppy. But for Brie, I can give her a pass because she did have a shoulder injury, and that was confirmed by Triple H. They think it's bad, so that sucks for the Bellas, even though I'm not really a fan. It sucks because they thought they were going to finally get a chance to go for the tag titles. First it was Nikki getting hurt early in the year, then she finally gets healthy. Now it's Brie getting hurt. Shoulder injuries. Remember, Liv Morgan was out 6 months last year. So that sucks for the Bellas. And I think you can give Brie a pass, but for Paige, she looked horrible. I thought Paige was awful in this match. I didn't think, Fatal Influence was spectacular or anything. I like, I love Fallon. I think Lainey and Jacy were okay, but like Brie and Paige, I don't know what Paige's excuse is. She was terrible. I didn't think Nikki was bad, but Paige I thought was awful. And eventually Jacy pins Paige with a rolling encore, gets the win. After the match, Fatal Influence leaves, and then the Bella Twins turn on Paige. A shocker, right? Yeah. Nikki hits the rack attack to Paige, and that was it for them. Their alliance is over. I don't know where Paige goes from here, to be honest. I don't think she really needed to come back. I don't think there was a huge desire to see her back. She got a nostalgia pop at WrestleMania. I really have no desire at all to see Paige feuding with the Bella Twins on TV. It'll probably just be Paige and Nikki because Brie's going to be out for a while. I have no desire to see that feud in the year 2026. I had no desire to see that feud in the year 2015. I don't want to see it now. So we see CM Punk and Cody Rhodes warming up backstage before their match. And then we got another break. Once again, fuck TKO. And throughout the entire show, we had multiple SummerSlam snapshots, some good memories throughout the years. Can't recap them all, but I'm glad they did that. I like that part. I wish they would have had the classic SummerSlam theme music too. That original SummerSlam theme, but too much to ask for. Then they show us an 8-bit graphic on the screen, which is weird. And by the way, the WWE Championship match did not have a video package. I'm thinking the people in the stadium probably got some video packages as we had to sit through WWE's shitty commercials. I hope they at least got video packages because we didn't get any video packages besides the main event. No other match had the video package. Anyway, they show us an 8-bit graphic on screen with Cody Rhodes as he gets a special Street Fighter entrance. They played the classic NES Street Fighter theme song, which was awesome. I don't want to say marked out, but I thought, oh, that's cool. I never owned an NES, but I would sometimes play the game online, and I thought, oh, that's pretty fucking cool. I like that. And Cody rises from the stage like he always does when he gets big entrances at SummerSlam or at WrestleMania, and he has the Nightmare helmet, but it has Guile here, which looks so fucking cheesy. It's like, oh, that doesn't fit at all. Don't use the Guile hair, Cody. It's the Nightmare mask, but has it's the golden Guile hair from the character he plays in Street Fighter. Oh, that looked horrible. Like, you didn't need that, but he does have that. And Cody then makes his entrance. After that, you see CM Punk make a special entrance as he walks backstage through the gorilla and then out the stage. And then he kneels and he does the "It's clobbering time" before his music played. I guess that's his new entrance at big shows. He kind of got an entrance like that at WrestleMania, if I remember. And then once he's out, we have the ring introductions, which were done by Alicia Taylor, Michael Cole, and Wade Barrett on commentary for the Undisputed WWE Championship, defended in the co-main event this time, with CM Punk defending his title against Cody Rhodes. So Cody is getting booed a lot during the ring introductions. I wrote this down in my notes. Cody, turn heel, you idiot. Just do it. Like, why is he so afraid to turn heel? Is it because his dad was a career babyface? Like, why? Why is he so afraid to do it? It's like he doesn't want to. I think it's more about Cody not wanting to turn for some fucking reason. Everyone wants you to turn, Cody. Anyways, so Punk worked on Cody's shoulder early on. Then Cody would work over Punk's knee. Cody hit a Cody Cutter, and then a disaster kick, but Punk kicked out of both. And then Cody hit the super Cody Cutter from the top rope, which looked really good. They traded submission holds with Cody locking Punk into the figure four after he worked over the knee. And then Punk got the Anaconda Vice, but Cody was able to get out of it. Punk kicked out of the Crossroads. It was only one. And then I have to point this out. The worst spot of the entire night was when CM Punk, he went for a moonsault. I don't know if it was supposed to be a corkscrew moonsault. It looked like absolute shit. Look, Punk is just not a very athletic guy. It's okay. He's never been that kind of a guy who was a super athlete wrestler. But, like, oh my God, it looked awful. It was like one of the ugliest things I've ever seen. It was the worst moonsault ever. It was supposed to be like a corkscrew moonsault. I don't know. Anyway, Cody, however, would kick out of the go to sleep, and the story they told was Punk couldn't get all of it because his knee was already hurt. And then Punk would hit another go to sleep, but this time Cody grabs the bottom rope. Later on the outside, Punk puts Cody on the announce booth, which was exposed, and he goes to hit the elbow drop from the top rope. He jumps, and he goes through the announce booth, but Cody moved out of the way. And I thought this was a good spot by Punk because he went knee first to sell the knee injury more in the match, which I thought was pretty good. And I thought that was actually looked cool. I thought it helped the match more because it played into what they were doing earlier with him just going knee first. and it looked like his knee was destroyed. And I thought Punk could have been hurt because once he went knee first, he went head first into the barricade afterwards, which looked pretty bad. And I'm not saying it looked bad; it looked like it hurt. After that, Cody gets him back in the ring, and then he went for a Cody cutter, but then he took out the referee by accident. Later, Cody would hit the crossroads to Punk, but there was no referee. Then Randy Orton runs out from the crowd. We haven't seen him since WrestleMania, since he left Cody in a pool of his own blood, punting him. He hits an RKO to Cody Rhodes. Then he leaves. CM Punk hits a go to sleep to Cody Rhodes. The referee was back in the ring. He counts 1, 2, 3. CM Punk defeats Cody Rhodes to retain the undisputed WWE Championship. Watching this, it felt like they're not going to have a rematch anytime soon because Cody's probably now going to have a long-term storyline with Randy that he probably would have had after WrestleMania had Randy not hurt his back. And with Punk, he's going to go face the winner of Finn Balor and Sami Zayn tomorrow night. But it did feel like the kind of match that's just going to be part one. This did not feel like a definitive end to a long-term rivalry. It felt like they had their first match at SummerSlam under controversial finish with Randy interfering, and it just feels like this is the kind of match that they'll eventually go back to down the road at another big show. I thought this was a good matchup, not a great match. I thought Punk's match with Roman Reigns at WrestleMania was much better than this. I thought his match with Sami Zayn on Raw a few weeks ago was better than this, to be honest. I thought Cody, his match with Cena last year at SummerSlam blows this out of the water. And, this was much better than his match with Randy at WrestleMania, I'll say that. I just thought, it was a very good matchup. I enjoyed it. I didn't think it was a classic match. I thought that I know these two are capable of having. That's what I'd say about it. But it is the first meeting, and I expect them to have much better matches in the future. And, I think once they really get to have a long-term rivalry, I think the fans might be more invested into a storyline in which they can pay it off with a better match, because this feud really was rushed. This whole match was rushed. They even have a month to build this up. They only had like 3 weeks, and I think in the future, once they have more of a long-term storyline, they can do a better job of building it up and having a better payoff with the match. So then, the Hell in a Cell was coming down. They had its classic entrance theme. Yes, the Hell in a Cell has its own theme music. They plug WrestleMania next year, and then they preview SummerSlam tomorrow night, SummerSlam Sunday. And then they went to the panel, but their mics were out. I'm not sure if this is just an issue for international viewers like me on Netflix. I don't know if people watching on ESPN had this issue, but there's something going on with WWE's production. This would never happen in the Kevin Dunn days. It's an issue at Lee Fitting. I don't know what to say, but I hate Kevin Dunn and his shaky cam shit. But this is an issue at Lee Fitting. Why is there so many production issues? And there's times where you'll hear Michael Cole talking and he just gets cut out randomly when he's plugging something. It's just weird. It happens every time when I watch Raw or SmackDown, to be honest. I don't know why. Again, maybe it has to do with the international feed. I can assume that. So then we go to the Act 3 video package, which was about Brock Lesnar and Oba Femi. Good video package, but I've seen it a lot of times now. And then the Hell in a Cell continues to hang up in the air, and then it has the music playing too. It's like it's waiting to come down. I'm thinking how long can you hang in the air? I don't know. Anyways, Oba Femi came out first. He got a big pop. People doing the strut. And then they waited a little bit for Brock to make his entrance. They really milked the reaction. He got a big pop in Minnesota, as you'd expect. Brock was accompanied by Paul Heyman, and Michael Cole actually quoted Taz, his former colleague, when he says, "Here comes the pain." That's what Taz would always say about Brock Lesnar whenever he'd come out early in his days and during his first run in WWE, the first 2 years. Well, here comes the pain. And there was actually a video game named SmackDown Here Comes the Pain. One of my favorite WWE video games, by the way. But yeah, that brought me back hearing that. So when Brock first came out, and Cole said, I thought, man, is Brock going to retire? It's very sentimental the way they're doing it. But I thought to myself, Yeah, look at WrestleMania. So you had Alicia Taylor doing the ring introductions for Oba Femi, and then Paul Heyman grabs the mic. He stands on the announce booth and introduces Brock Lesnar from the University of Minnesota, gets a big pop, says his name, as he always does, and, it felt, kind of felt like this is Heyman introducing Lesnar. Like, it's not something we haven't seen before, but it seemed like Heyman was a bit more emotional in his tone. I don't know if you can say that. So finally, the Hell in a Cell comes down to the ground, and we get the main event: Hell in a Cell, Oba Femi versus Brock Lesnar. Why was this a Hell in a Cell match, by the way? Like, there was no reason for this to be a Hell in a Cell match. So there was a suplex city, Brock hitting some suplexes early on. Oba recovered, brought out the table, and I immediately groaned. Like, oh, why is this just going to be a fucking plunder match with a cell in it? Like, the cell surrounding the ring. Like, why? Like, I want to see them use the cell. I'm not expecting them to go outside and climb on top of the cell with, I'm not sure it's a good idea for two men as big as them to be on top of a cell. I don't think that's a good idea, but I thought they'd use it, like throw each other into it, cut each other open, bleed, or what I was expecting to happen is maybe like one of them would spear the other and they go through, they crash through the wall of the cell. Edge and Undertaker did at SummerSlam one year in 2008. There was a spot like that where they actually crashed through the side of the cell and it looked really good. They didn't go to the top, and I never expected Brock and Oba to go to the top. I thought they should have at least used the cell. I don't care about these fucking weapons. The ending sequence was fine. I just wish they would have used the cell. Like, why did they have to use a table and use steps and use chairs? We don't need that shit. Anyways, there was an Oba brought out the table, and then there was the one time they used the cell as well. He set up the table on the wall of the cell, and he Irish whipped Brock on the outside. He went through the table, which was slanted onto the cell, which looked pretty good. And then Brock hit Oba with steel steps in the ring. Then he hit Oba with a steel chair. Brock kicks out of a fall from grace. And then Brock hits 3 F5s, but Oba kicks out. And I'm thinking, the only reason this is a Hell in a Cell match is it was just a desperate ploy by WWE to sell tickets. Last Man Standing would have been a better choice for them to blow off their feud because it's kind of like a knockout. You didn't just keep your opponent down for 3 seconds, you kept them down for 10. I thought that would have been a better choice than Hell in a Cell, because I don't think Brock had 2 good Hell in a Cell matches with The Undertaker. They were both really good, and it didn't work because there was no reason for the cell to be here. It's just, I hate that they're wasting the Hell in a Cell like this, because we don't get Hell in a Cell matches that frequently anymore. They don't do the PLE Hell in a Cell anymore. And, I'd like to see it used when we get to see it. Like, I wasn't expecting it to be as good as the Punk and Drew match from 2 years ago, but I wish they would have used the fucking cell. Anyways, what happens is, in the ring, Brock pulls off the canvas, exposing wood. That same spot happened with the Undertaker match like 10 or 11 years ago, actually. And the best spot of the entire match is Brock. He looks like he's about to F5 Oba onto the wood. Instead, he turns it around and he tombstone pile drives Oba onto the exposed wood. That was awesome. I'm not going to lie. That was fucking nasty. He has Oba, does the rest in peace pin. 1, 2, Oba kicks out of the tombstone pile driver. And that was a great spot. Brock goes to finish him with the F5, but Oba eventually hits a fall from man, not onto the wood, onto the regular ring part, but he hits the fall from man, a second one. 1, 2, 3, Oba Femi pins Brock Lesnar, wins Hell in a Cell, wins the rivalry, and that is how the main event of SummerSlam ended. Without question, the most unnecessary Hell in a Cell match of all time. Doing my best Liv Morgan impression, because there was no reason for this to be a Hell in a Cell match. So this, to be honest, was easily my least favorite of the 3 matches that these two have had. I really like the WrestleMania match. I really like the Clash in Italy match. This is easily the weakest in my opinion, because there was no reason for this to be a cell. If this was just a street fight, I would have liked it a lot more. So I imagine that was how the main event ended, as in the match, but that's not how the show ended. Oba was celebrating in the ring. And we saw the graphics making us think the show is over, but almost always that doesn't mean the show is actually over. Brock Lesnar would get back in the ring. Then he hugs Oba Femi. He raises his hand, and then he gets on the mic as Oba was about to leave the ring, and he puts him over a lot. He says, "I'm the past, he's the future," and everyone cheers for Oba. Really good moment. Brock passes the torch, and he leaves the ring. I thought this was really well done, but it's open-ended if Brock's retiring. He says, "I'm the past." That doesn't mean he's going to retire. He's going to be thought of a guy in the past in 2026, but that just means that, the end is closer than the beginning, obviously. But that doesn't mean he's done. I don't think he's done. I think he's going to WrestleMania again. He might go past that. I don't believe this is Brock Lesnar's last match, especially with the way WrestleMania ended, and that felt like a really definitive. Here, this was very much open-ended, and it just feels like, Brock's going to get money. He's going to wait, get a big payday, and come back. Maybe it's the end. And look, it's a good way if it is the end because it's SummerSlam in Minnesota, where he's from, and he, puts over Oba. That's a good way to go out. I think Brock's probably going to wrestle again. Maybe I'm wrong, though, but if not, then hey, this is a good way to go out. Thank you, Brock. But to be honest, I think it's more likely he does wrestle again. After the show ended, which I'll be honest with SummerSlam, I don't know if I really liked it. I don't know how to feel about it. I like Liv and Io a lot. I like the 6-man. I like that. Gunther, Aldis, I liked that match. I thought it was good. The women's 6-man was garbage. Then Punk and Cody I just thought was good. Didn't live up to its potential. I still thought it was good. And, Oba Brock, I felt really disappointed because how little the Hell in a Cell was used. And I thought they needed blood. I really wished there was blood. No blood. And I didn't hate the match. I just thought it was okay. I felt like the last 2 matches, to be honest, didn't deliver as much as they could. I didn't think they were bad or anything. I just felt like they under-delivered from their potential, especially the Hell in a Cell. I was really disappointing with that match. I think that really soured the show for me. I didn't hate it, but I don't know what I really thought about it. I didn't think I really liked it that much. I didn't hate the show, but it's kind of felt like another WWE PLE. It's like, okay, it's just kind of there. I mean, didn't hate it, didn't love it. It's just kind of mid. That's kind of how I felt with SummerSlam Night 1, to be honest. It's kind of okay. So then we had the post show. It was still light outside when it started. The after the show was over, I watched on YouTube like I watched the countdown show. They showed Jackie Redmond interviewing Oba Femi on the ramp after his victory. I thought he cut a good promo here. He was excited after his win. We'll see what's next for Oba. On the panel outside was Joe Tessitore, Corey Graves, Peter Rosenberg, and Big E. And then Liv Morgan joins the panel. And Liv was actually wearing a Rhea Ripley shirt of her crying 2 years ago at SummerSlam after Dom turned on her and Liv beat her. I thought to myself, maybe we're going to get Liv and Rhea soon. Maybe I don't know when they're going to do Crown Jewel, but I thought that would make sense. Are we going to get that? I wanted to point that out. Liv mocking Rhea Ripley on the post show. And I thought Rhea could make a surprise appearance to help Io, like Io helped her at WrestleMania, but that didn't happen. Rhea, we'll see what's up with her. I mean, she's going to be focused on whoever wins the interim WWE Women's Championship tomorrow night in that ladder match. But clearly, they want to do something with Liv and Rhea again. Backstage, Kathy Kelly was interviewing Nick Aldis after his match, and then Triple H walks up to him, and Nick hands in his resignation papers as GM. Triple H tells him he's proud of him, and then he rips up the papers because he understood why he stood up to Gunther, and they settled it in the ring. After he rips up the papers, Triple H tells Nick Aldis he's reinstated as general manager. And then you had Gunther join the panel after he won. After that, CM Punk joined the panel after his win. And then you had Triple H taking questions from the media that was there. He hasn't done this in a while. He gets asked if Brock is done. He says he doesn't know, which is probably true. He gets asked about new talents, and he says, I think it was with Damian Priest. He gave like this answer of how you have to take the spot, whatever. It seemed like his typical answer, stuff like that. And then he did get asked about Brie Bella being injured, and he did confirm it's a shoulder injury. It looks like it's pretty serious. Then we go back outside. Femi joins the panel. He calls out CM Punk, and then he really puts over Brock Lesnar. And then they promote SummerSlam Sunday tomorrow, and that was the whole SummerSlam show. Like, recap the countdown show, the main card, and the post show. So a lot happened tonight. That's night one of SummerSlam, SummerSlam Saturday. I did feel disappointed because I didn't feel like the show lived up to its potential. Particularly, I didn't like the main event. I felt like I didn't like how little the Hell in a Cell was used. It just seemed to me like the Hell in a Cell was used just so they can sell tickets, because they didn't really want to use the Hell in a Cell as it should be. And it just felt like they needed something just to sell tickets, and it almost seemed like a desperate ploy. And I don't know. I think I said 37,000 early on. It might have been 35,000 for night one. I'm not sure what the official number was, what WrestleTix had, but definitely a disappointment in terms of attendance. They had from what they were last year at SummerSlam, huge drop off. Definitely a big drop off, a disappointment. And I didn't hate the show. I just felt underwhelming. It just felt like whatever. Just another WWE show that doesn't live up to its potential. It could have been a lot better than it was. Too many fucking ads. That's definitely the biggest problem. You just have to deal with these fucking ads at TKO, and that sucks. And we'll see what happens on night two. But night one for SummerSlam in Minnesota, to me, was just kind of there. It was just okay. And I guess maybe the silver lining is WrestleMania Night 1 was awful this year. SummerSlam Night 1 was much better than WrestleMania Night 1. WrestleMania Night 2 was a lot better. A million times better than Night 2 was. Maybe SummerSlam Night 2 is better than SummerSlam Night 1 was. And that would mean it's a good show, because SummerSlam Night 1 wasn't bad like WrestleMania Night 1 was. So that was the show tonight. We'll see what WWE has in store for SummerSlam Sunday, Night 2.